So today I want to talk to you about the open house mastery. What's the open house mastery? Well, let's start off with when I first started in the industry and I was told to be holding open houses over the weekend. Let's admit, the first time around were not really that good. And why weren't they that good? Well, because in most cases, you'd sit there, put up a handful of signs, you'd waste the Saturday, waste the Sunday, twiddle your thumbs for 3 or 4 hours, and maybe you got a buyer that came in that was already with an agent. So I found those frustrating. But today I'm going to share with you how I was able to turn those type of open houses into very effective open houses. Not only was I able to actually double in more listings, but I actually got more listings. And I'm going to share that with you today. Hi everyone, Robert Villanueva here. Over a buyer company. You can tear it down. And of course, as always, I'll see you at the top. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Let's talk about the what I call is the perfect open house. Okay, and in the perfect open house, this is way different than with what I mentioned at the beginning of the video. And in the beginning of the video, this is a very typical thing. It's very common for a lot of realtors where they basically just go ahead and decide they're going to be doing an open house, put up a handful of signs, they pull up a table, a chair, and then just sit there and wait for people to come on in. Sometimes it's a home run, and sometimes it's just absolutely dead as can be, right? So the perfect open house, let's jump right in. Okay. Now, the perfect open house for me is I would take some steps to make sure that I made them more effective. And the very first step in that, what I would do is I would just go and make a round of just listed phone calls. So I would go ahead and have that open house. Let's just use Saturday as an example. And then I would do the open house, but I would call Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all the way the entire week, right? And then I'd go through, use the just listed script. But what I would also do is add at the very end of that, by the way, we're going to be holding that house open this Saturday between 12 and 3. And I'd love the opportunity to invite you to come on by. So we'd go through, do a just listed round of calls, okay? And then the second thing, we would strategically go over and knock on the exact same doors. And what I mean by strategically, and for that matter, systematically, is I would call First Street, Second Street, Third Street, all the way down to, let's say, for example, 10th Street. On Monday, I'd call First, Second, and Third. On Tuesday, I would call Fourth, Fifth, and Sixth as an example, but I would go and knock on First, Second, and Third, which are the ones that I called yesterday. Why is this happening? Why did I do this? And why is this important? Because let's go ahead and talk about this. We talked about another video, but I want to go into the depth in this because this is the open house mastery. Now in here, I would pick up the phone, call the neighbors. Hi, I'm looking for Joe. Hi, Joe. My name is Robert. I'm a local realtor. And the reason I'm calling is I just listed your neighbor's property over on 456 Banana Street. It has 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, and we listed at a great price of $500,000. And I was wondering, who do you know that would want to move into our neighborhood? Well, in this conversation, you know the rest of the script. Nothing would come of it. Not interested. No, no, no. Click, bye. Well, in that, there would be basically a conversation that you and I are not privy to. And we don't pay attention to this. Okay. And what I mean by that is that we only pay attention to what happens on our side of the conversation. And not like as if though I had all of these spies or whatever it may be, but this is very common. And what I mean by that is the conversation on the other side, the person that just hung up on me. And that conversation you and I are not privy to. Now, why do I bring this up? The reason I bring this up is the moment that they hang up, not always, but I'm going to kind of paint a picture for you as to why this was effective. Hang up the phone. Spouse goes, "Hey, honey, who was that?" Some realtor. Okay, well, what did he want? Well, he's talking about a property that they just listed in the neighborhood and something about an open house they're doing this weekend. Okay. Well, which house is that one? I don't know. I think he said something about Banana Street. Oh, yeah, that's right. I did see the sign on that one. So they're doing an open house. How much are they asking for? Honey, why so many questions? Well, as you know, we've talked about possibly making a move, getting something a little bit bigger, something a little bit smaller, something a little bit different. Yeah, but right now it's just not the right time. The economy, the interest rates, the whatevers, right? My point in that is that a seed was planted. And as far as that seed is planted, now they're thinking about it. They've always had this thought in the back of their mind. Now, people don't wake up from one day to the next and say, I'm going to sell my house. What ends up happening is that there's something that sparks that interest, whether it's a new build community that they go and visit, whether it's the interest rates, whether it is, equity in their home, whether it's a neighbor selling their property, and then all of a sudden it just becomes conversation over an extended period of time. That's kind of usually those type of things. And of course, other circumstances such as, too small, too big of a house, job relocation, loss of income, gaining of income, all of these different things. But in that, the reason I'm going into the depthness of the conversation we're not privy to is because the second thing is I talked about going and knocking on the door. Now, when I go and knock on the door, I would again strategically go and knock on first, second, and third, and then follow it, day after day. Now, when I go and knock on the door, this is what basically what would happen, and I knew that people were paying attention to this because of what would come out of what I'm just about to say. I'd go knock on the door. Hi, my name is Robert. I'm a local realtor. The reason I'm stopping by is I just listed your neighbor's property over on Banana Street. Hey, were you a realtor that actually called yesterday or the day before? Very likely. Yeah. So I guess my question to you is very simple. Who do you know that wants to move into our neighborhood? I can't really think of anybody, but I think you said 500,000? Yep, 500,000. What do you think? You guys can be able to get that? We hope so. I mean, we think it's going to be priced fairly well, and the market is pretty active. So yeah, we hope so. And then of course, now I know that there's some version of piqued interest. Well, even at the door doesn't necessarily mean that anything really came out of it, but now the interest has been heightened. And for me, Robert the realtor, is I've identified a potential maybe. I very likely would take that person's information. Let's stay in touch. Let me reach out to you, give you some updates. I'll let you know what ends up coming of the property, so on and so forth. Now I take the person's contact information, which I'm usually pretty good at. And now, of course, I invited them over to the open house. So in that, it gives us the opportunity to not only pick up the phone, call them, follow it up with an actual door knock. So this actually helps a lot in regards to moving people forward. But let's talk about the rest of the steps. I'm going to cover the entire thing, but I want to make sure I go to the depthness of each one of these because they are absolutely important and vital. The third thing is I would actually put up an open house sign at the actual property as an example saying, we will be holding this house open this Saturday from 12 to 3. Why? Because they'd have an entire week or at least a good 4 or 5 days worth of an advance notice that that property is going to be held as an open house. I mean, this step alone, I mean, think about that. Most realtors put up signs 5.5 minutes before an open house. I would actually do it a good 5 to 6 days in advance. So this is another strategy that I would actually push people to the open house. Another thing that you're going to want to do is now we have, of course, the benefits of using social media, creating an event, creating other online platforms that you can actually use, along with mailers and things like that are passive. The only thing I'm going to ask of you to proceed with caution is just simply on the cost factor. I've never really been a big type of coach to have people invest all kinds of expenses before they actually make any money. Well, the next thing is after you do the social media, you're going to, of course, input it into the open house in the MLS, or I'm sorry, you're going to input it as an open house in the MLS. Okay. And why is this important is because people will go through, they'll look on the Zillow app, the Realtor.com app, the Truly app, all these other different apps that people use. And they'll see that that property is going to be holding an open house. Now, this is important because what would end up happening in most cases, I know this is the way that I am, is I'll plan my weekend and planning the weekend. Hey, I'm probably going to go check out an open house 2 or 3. And then what I'll do is if I'm active in the market, I'm going to scour through some of those online platforms. So make sure you put it on in the MLS as an open house because it actually triggers a lot of the applications that I just mentioned. The sixth step. Now, as far as the sixth step is concerned, I've gotten questioned about this, but again, everybody is each on their own. You need to put up at least 20 to 50 signs. Yes, I said 50. Okay, open house signs. And here's the other thing. I'm giving you all kinds of cheat codes. Put the signs up the night before. Now, why put them up the night before? Here's the reason for that. As an example, I would hold open houses on Saturday. Well, the don't throw me under the bus, please. Code enforcement for city is usually Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. But I would put the signs up and cheat a little bit by putting them up because in most city they actually, of course, you have to follow ordinances. I'm not telling you to break ordinances, anything from that direction. But what I would do is I would put the signs up around 7, 8, or even 9 o'clock at night on Friday. Now, don't if you're in a bad area and you're sitting here telling me your signs are going to get stolen, that's up to you. Okay. You just have to take things with what I'm saying and as generic and as applicable as you want to. But in this, with what I would do is put the signs up the night before on Friday, 7, 8, 9 p.m. at night. And why is this important? Because most realtors, what do? They put signs up, not 20, not 30, not 50. They'll put up 5, 6, or 8 signs. Now, the time is important because I want you to think about this. Okay. I'm just basically getting you to think outside of the box in today's video. A lot of times, as an example, agents are putting up signs for a 12 to 3 open house, maybe about 11, 11:30. Okay. Some will actually do it maybe the morning of at 9, 9:30, go home, shower, and then come back to the open house. But here, there are going to be some circumstances. As an example, one of the neighbors down the street ends up taking little Timmy to soccer practice, and it's 8 o'clock in the morning, and they go, "Oh, yeah, that's right. They're doing that open house today." I remember seeing the sign in front of the house, but now I can see the actual open house signs. Why do I want you to put as many as 50 signs? Because I wanted to have mass exposure. The more signs, the more it looks like the harder you're working. It's crazy if you really think about it. Okay, so think about the agents that are doing these open houses based on the signs that I'm mentioning, and especially if they're doing it weekend after weekend after weekend, their marketing just with that alone is crazy. So putting it up the night before is cheat code number one because you don't have to worry about waking up, going out, putting up signs, and then coming back home and going through the whole sweaty process. I'm in Southern California. We get 110, 115-degree days, and that's not fun putting up signs at that time. So that's one of the reasons. Number two is, of course, the number of signs as to how many. Now, as far as the how many is concerned, again, the 20 to 50 signs puts you in a position where you have more exposure, more people, more opportunities, a little bit of a further reach to pull people to your open house. Well, the seventh and the eighth step is basically the moment that you secure a buyer for that property, get it under contract, whether you're representing or not, it doesn't matter. The moment that you put it in escrow, you get the buyer, you're going to do your just sold telephone prospecting. Follow that up, the exact same thing like the just listed, you're going to do a just sold door knocking campaign. So all of these things that I would do, basically these 8 different steps for the one open house, as you can see, there's a lot of steps that are involved. And even if this wasn't my listing, it gave me the opportunity to mass expose an actual listing. This, of course, attracted more people to come to the open house, number one. Number two, it gave me the opportunity because there was more people that showed up to be able to, of course, secure the buyer for that particular listing. And that would put me in a position, of course, we would double end more. I was pretty close to about 50%. If not, in some years, there was actually more in terms of the amount of listings I took that we would double end them. So I would take advantage of that. Now, as far as that is concerned, going back to being in a position where all of these steps take place, I want you to think about what I just mentioned. Which agent actually does this? I'm not trying to put myself on a pedestal, but that's the reason, main reason, the difference between an agent that does an open house, puts 4 signs out 5 minutes before an open house, sits there, twiddle their thumbs for about 2, 3, or 4 hours, and does not get the results that they desire. So that's one of the main reasons, at least for me, why they would make that more effective. The other cool thing about it is let's go back to the original part of the just listed with Joe, talking to the spouse, knocking on the door, having that conversation. When the open house would actually take place, I would be scoping out my next seller. And the reason why I was so good at this is because I would be able to identify, hey, Mary, I remember you. I knocked on your door back on Tuesday. Yeah, that's right. We're just here, just being a little bit nosy. Why are they there? They're there to compare and contrast. Okay. Now, these are things that I was very observant of. And of course, I would go through, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, use the open house script to be able to extract as much information as I possibly could. Okay. Now, let's move on to the next point. That was obviously a very, very lengthy point, but that is what I call is my perfect open house. Now, the second main point is make sure you create what I call as an open house checklist. Okay, now this is just a small, subtle point, but this is important because I'm all about systems. It's very systematic. We want to be able to duplicate it. We want to make it simple, having an open house box, having all of the materials, all of the things, because I know some of you, what do? Oh my gosh, where are my signs? Oh my gosh, I have to get the clipboards. Oh my gosh, do I even have any pins? Oh my gosh, I got to whatever. By having an open house checklist, it gives you the opportunity, okay, boom, got that. Yep, got that. Oh, we got to go get more of that. And then yep, I got to order more of these because we're running out. It gives the opportunity to be a little bit more systematic. So make sure you create one. And as far as that is concerned, it's up to you. I'm just saying create an open house checklist so that it gives you the opportunity, of course, to be able to duplicate it. And for that matter, critique yourself after the open house. You know what? I should have done this. I should have done that. I should have put this other stuff up, so on and so forth, rather than continuing to shoot from the hip. Now let's move on to the next one. This is another important point. I mean, they're all, of course, I'm going to say they're all important, but this is probably one of the more vital points to this entire process. And that is bring a vendor with you. My personal preference, 80, 90, 95% of the time, is bring a loan officer, bring a lender with you, because that lender is going to be ready to go to, of course, be able to take a buyer application. And in some cases, we can write an offer on the spot, get them qualified, and boom, we literally can go ahead and get an accepted offer in like less than a half a day if you do your job right. Now, let's say, for example, there isn't a lender, you're just getting yourself started, you don't really have that kind of relationship. Well, don't be hesitant to reach to another vendor, a title person, an insurance person, a home warranty person, anybody that's a non-realtor. Well, why am I saying a non-realtor? Okay, now it's okay if you bring one, but the problem is like, okay, do you take that client? Do we go 50-50? All of that stuff comes into play. I'd rather have somebody else who's going to get their full commission. I get my full commission. Okay, it's not about being greedy. It's just about being smarter. Now, the vendor's job, the reason I'm bringing them by, we obviously talked about a lender, but their other role is to go ahead and register people, get them checked in, fill this out, so on and so forth. Why? Because that frees me up so that I can do the meet and greets. Okay, so the lender brings in the person. Hi guys, come on in. Let me go ahead and get you to fill this out. Go ahead and put your name, your fake number on there. Right? And let's go ahead and get the email that's going to bounce back. Let's go ahead and get you to put it right there, please. By the way, this is Robert. He's the realtor, and he's going to show you around. Well, when I would do this, I would go ahead and grab the people. Hi, guys. My name is Robert. Pleasure to meet you. Your name is Joe, Mary. Hey, guys, come on in. I'm going to show you one feature, and I'm going to let you guys go about your business. And the reason I would do this is because it gave me the opportunity to at least spend a minute or two with them and sell them on the most important feature, whether that's the kitchen, the swimming pool, the master bedroom, the whatever. I don't care what it is, the horse stables, whatever you want to sell them on. Then give them their space. You guys go ahead and take your time, look around. I'm here if you have any questions, so on and so forth. The reason I would do this is because it gives them that comfortness of that, hey, this guy's not going to hound me. He's not going to hard sell me. I would give them space so that they could breathe. Okay. Now, of that, we almost always know when they're about to wrap up. They've already seen all the bedrooms. They've already seen all the bathrooms. They've already seen the backyard. They're kind of doing their exits. Now, in this, I would now go on to step number 4. And step number 4 is to use the open house script. Now, the open house script, first question I'd ask them is, do you live in the area? Which home do you own? Right out the gate, I'm going to identify, number 1, are they a neighbor? And number 2, do they own a home? Because in that, if they live in the area, I live right over there. Which home do you own? Well, I'm the one at 457 Banana Street. Now I know that they're the owners. And if they're only like 3, 5, 7 houses away or a block or two, that's a potential seller. I would, of course, jump into the next question. Are you needing to sell to buy your next home? How long have you been looking? Are you currently working with a realtor? Are you working with a lender? I would like the opportunity to apply for the job of finding your next home. When's a good time for us to meet? Now, you'll notice I'm asking right out the gate as I'm talking to them to get the opportunity to set an appointment. Yes, set an appointment. And as far as that setting of an appointment is concerned, that's my job. My job is not to take a list of names and fake numbers and fake emails and then call them on Monday. I know you do that. Don't do that. Okay. Why? Because what do you think, as I mentioned earlier, that they're doing on that day? Do you honestly think that they're going to your one open house? Oh my gosh, honey, we found the house. We found the agent. Let's stop looking at other open houses. Let's stop talking to other realtors. That's not the case. They're talking to the realtors. And other realtors are going to be aggressive, if not more aggressive. If you're just doing the list of the names, the fake numbers, and the fake emails, well, good luck. When you call on Monday, you have 10 people that come by and you have 2 or 3 people that you speak with, and then everybody else has a fake number, or they just start to ghost you. That's why. I'm going to give you another cheat code. Okay. This is what I'm doing. This is stuff that is being in the trenches and the benefits, of course, being a professionally paid coach and being in a position where I can give this to you. What cheat code am I talking about? The cheat code I'm talking about is how do we overcome these fake names and numbers? The way that I would do that is, of course, as I just went through the script, I would now grab my phone and I'd say, Joe, Mary, let me go ahead and just send you my virtual card, right? Which is this thing here. And in that virtual card, what I basically would do is I'd say, okay, Joe, so what's the number you want me to text this to? And then Joe gets, of course, a little nervous and like, oh my gosh, I put the wrong number, right? Gives me the number, 555-1212. All right, Joe, you want to check your phone? Did you get that? Oh, you didn't get that, huh? Hey, do me a favor. Why don't you go ahead and type in your number? I'm sure it was my fat fingers. Go ahead and type it in. Now he knows. Oh, shoot. Okay, let me go ahead and put it in. Well, now I have the phone number, the right phone number. Okay. So in that, of course, he gave me the opportunity to go ahead and send it over to him. Now I have their number in a sense captured. I go look at the register, and of course they put the wrong number. Okay. That's kind of the deal. Now, I don't know, maybe back in high school when I was dating, I kind of figured that was kind of the thing because I would get fake numbers from girls all the time. So I just applied with what I was doing before into with what I was doing now as a realtor. So of course, it gives me the opportunity to now capture the number that needs to be called versus, of course, the fake name and number. Well, let's talk a little bit about the setting of appointments versus taking names and numbers, which is the 5th point. And in that 5th point, setting appointments versus taking names and numbers is our job. Right there at the actual open house, my job is to set as many appointments as I possibly can because we already know the drill. We get those names, the numbers, we wait until Monday, we wait until Tuesday, we start to call and follow up with these people. We know the largest percentage of them. I already have a realtor. I was just looking. I'm already, we already found another house. We're just not interested anymore. Or if you're lucky, because now you can, of course, get the wrong names, the wrong numbers, the fake emails, all that other stuff. Okay. So I'm going to give you a general rule. And the general rule that I like to follow is basically you should, out of every 10 people that visit your open house, you should at least be able to get one appointment. That's kind of a measuring stick. Okay. So that is at least one appointment from every 10 people that would visit. I would average about one for every 5. Okay. So even on the weaker open houses that I would get, the 3, 4, or 5 open house people that would actually come, at worst of the worst case, every second open house, there would basically be a potential deal. Now, I talked about at the beginning, being able to, of course, double end more business. Now, double ending more business, I would also do with what I call, this isn't necessarily a point. It's just for those of you that have a little bit of a larger team, this is going to be applicable to you. And what I'm talking about is doing mega open houses. And mega open houses, what I would do is I would elevate and promote myself onto the next level. And what do I mean by that? As I mentioned before, we would actually do all of this, get another listing. And in some cases, we would have 2, 3, or 4 listings within about 50 homes. And the mega open house is we would do one open house for the 2, 3, or 4 properties on the exact same day. Well, now I would be the person that would go and rotate from other homes. And what I mean by promoting myself is I now would get another realtor. And the agreement with that, for those of you that are team leaders, is I would sit there and say, hey, look, you can go ahead and have the buyers, but all the listings are mine. Now, of course, the buyers, anything that comes from here, we're going to have very special, of course, splits because it's my listing. And of course, if it's the listing that comes through, that's my listing, which of course is with what we would do a lot. Now, the agents would actually appreciate it because now they're holding an open house. They're getting the opportunity to, get more business. And of course, with all the energy and effort that I just talked about, our open houses were very, very seldomly ghost towns. It was almost always sometimes where they would be too good. And what I mean by that, we've had that sometimes where I've had people 20, 30, 40, 50 people show up and it's kind of like, oh my gosh, we're looking around all over the place. And it's like, hey, do you have any questions? Hey, do you have any questions? And you just at the end, 4 hours later, 3 hours, 4 hours later, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even remember any one person that I had a genuine in-depth conversation. So it would give us the opportunity to at least, I'd rather err on that side, especially if it's a great neighborhood, a great price listing. If it just shows well, then of course now I staff it accordingly. But those are some of the things that I'm hoping that was helpful for you. Now, everything that I'm putting out, I want you to remember, this isn't something I read out of a book. This is something that I did being in the trenches. Now, being a professionally paid coach for the last decade plus, it gives me the opportunity to, of course, not only do with what I did, but to be able to coach my coaching clients through all of everything what we just talked about. So, as always, I'm going to ask of you to like, of course, subscribe. I'm going to ask of you to share, and of course, comment on this video. The other thing I'm going to ask of you is to follow my other platforms. You have the QR code that's just above my head. Now, on there, you can go ahead and scan because on there I have my Instagram, my TikTok, and my Facebook accounts there. Now, on Facebook, we have an actual group that is a private group. It's called Top Realtor Training. And on that group, there's a lot of classes that we actually do. One of the classes that's really super beneficial is we will do role play scripts Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 7:30 a.m. till 8 a.m. That's Pacific Standard. So I would encourage you to come join the group. You got to answer the 3 questions. Okay, don't make me be the bad person. It's very simple, 3 questions that you have to answer. We'll let you into the group, and we'd love the opportunity, of course, to see you there. As always, your favorite coach here. Hopefully this was helpful information. I will see you at the top.
Hi everyone, Robert Villanueva here. Over a buyer's market. And of course, as always, I'll see you at the top.